Hello and welcome. You're watching the Tov Jewish News channel. I'm Michael Vilensky, and my guest today is Rabbi Raphael Riton. Rabbi, nice to meet you.
Hi, good morning. Great to be here.
So, Rabbi, I want to start with the following question. We all are witnessing the war in Gaza, and you, as a rabbi, as a person who knows the Jewish religion very well, I want to ask you, what is the religious significance of the war in Gaza for Judaism? How does Judaism really see the war?
Wow, it's a great question. I mean, if we look at Jewish history, in every generation they tried to get rid of us. And miraculously, as Hashem promised us in the Torah, we will exist, we will survive everything until the end of days when the exile will be over and Mashiach will come. It seems in every generation, when we get a bit too comfortable with our lives, we get a small reminder that even though life is great and Hashem created the world in a way that we should have as much pleasure and it should be nice and fun, but we have also a mission. We have something that we should be focusing on. And many times when we lose that focus and become a bit too comfortable, we get a reminder that puts us back into place and reminds us what's really important in life. And if we're just talking about the situation that was in Israel the year before the war, we got a small reminder. Well, after all, we have different opinions. As they say, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. That's part of our mentality because we're here to strive for truth, and everyone is sure that he's the one who has the truth, and anyone else is wrong. And that's why there's so much fighting about, right, whose truth is the actual absolute truth. But we're still brothers, we're still sisters, as the Talmud says, even though Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, they had a lot of arguments between them, but they still loved each other, they still respected each other very much. And when we take our arguments to a personal place of hatred, that's something that needs to be stopped immediately. So there are I would say there are many significant lessons, messages that we see. It's so beautiful how people are just learning and taking these things away from the terrible, terrifying situation we're in right now. But the bottom line is that, we believe it's all for the good. Talking about death. Death is something that's terrifying for everyone. Everyone is afraid of death. And the sentence that everyone hears the most is, we will win in the end. Israel is so strong. Am Yisrael Chai. That's what you hear everywhere. But then tell that to a family that just lost one of their loved sons, relatives, anything. Like, yeah, we're going to win in the end. Thank you very much. But we lost already, right? He lost a relative. There's no comfort in such a sentence. But I think also the Torah's view on death, on war, in general, or all these people that have been murdered brutally, either on Simchat Torah or the soldiers that have fallen in Gaza during the war, that there's something very beautiful, and I think that brings us to think about the whole purpose of life, what we're here for. Right? On one hand, we sanctify life. We don't sanctify death like other religions. But on the other hand, the reason we sanctify life is not because we believe that life is our mission and that's the place we want to be forever, but here's the place that we're here. This is our work. This is our job. We're here to work, to achieve something, and then to continue to our real eternal place. And
I just want to clarify one small point. Can we call
Sure.
the war in Gaza a religious war, or is it just a regular war, a non-religious war that has gained some significance in the eyes of religious Jews? Do you see the difference?
I'm not sure. You're talking about from the Jewish perspective or from the Muslim perspective?
No, from a Jewish perspective.
What do you mean if it's a Jewish war? It's a religious war.
Whether
You mean if it's Milchemet Mitzvah?
Yes.
So it's a very good question. That's a big discussion in the commentaries and the Rishonim already. What's the definition of a Milchemet Mitzvah? I think You're probably hinting to the fact that we see a lot more involvement from the religious or maybe the Haredi world, and they feel much more connected and trying to contribute as much as possible to the efforts of this war. Um, is it because we see this as a more significant war than any other? I don't think so. But again, because of the whole situation in Israel, and because I think also there's a tremendous awakeness of connection to our tradition between, you see that in the army, you see that wherever you go, everyone's talking about emunah, everyone's talking about faith, right? The trauma and the shock is so big. I don't understand how anyone could survive and understand it without faith, without emunah, without believing that there's a bigger picture and we're just experiencing a small part of it, right? So because it's so big and so traumatic, I think we all feel that this is something that has to do with every one of us. This is a fight for our life. It's a fight for our existence, for our core, in the core, and therefore everyone wants to be part of it, and everyone wants to contribute the way they can. So there are those that decided they want to go and fight. There are those that want to volunteer, and I'm connected with different organizations. We go almost every night to grill barbecues for the soldiers that are fighting and putting their lives at risk. And then you have thousands and thousands of Torah scholars, of yeshiva boys, that understand that their spiritual contribution is what provides spiritual Iron Dome to the soldiers, which is so significant and so crucial. And therefore, they put in special effort to daven more, to study more Torah, to do other things that will bring more spiritual protection to the soldiers. So, in short, I don't think the Haredi world views this as a different from any other war. But just because of the scale of it, because it's so big and so significant and so shocking, everyone feels much more responsibility to be part of it.
Rabbi, I want to move on to an adjacent topic. So, unfortunately, we see in the war many soldiers that die every day. Just today, we had the news that 4 soldiers have been unfortunately killed in Gaza, and many anti-Semites accuse Israel not Israel, but Judaism, of being sort of an atheist religion, in the sense that Judaism doesn't believe in the afterlife. So, does Judaism really believe in the afterlife? And how that connects to the soldiers is that where do the soldiers that die, do they go to heaven in the eyes of the Jewish religion?
That's a beautiful question. I'll tell you, I'll give you an answer that you're probably not expecting. I don't think, right? If you ask if there's life after death, I think the answer is no. But Judaism's definition of life and death is different from what the average person would imagine, right? I see it a bit like a refrigerator, right? The refrigerator is a refrigerator. If it's plugged into electricity, now the refrigerator is alive, so to speak, right? Because now it has electricity in it. And when you take it out of the electricity, it's not dead, it's just not plugged in. So I would say the same thing. We have our body, which is like that refrigerator. It's a physical thing. And if it's plugged in to the soul, to the spiritual aspect of it, it's alive. And when you take that spiritual part out, so it's not alive anymore, but the body was never alive, right? So whatever was alive, which is the soul, is still alive. It goes to the place where souls are, outside of the body, and the body goes to where physical things, which is down to the grave. So, in short, as I started to say before, we sanctify life, of course. But the reason we sanctify life is because we're here to work, to achieve. We're here to sanctify God's name, to spread God's name in the world, to take the physical things and to elevate them, and to take, right, if you ask, is money good or bad? Depends what you do with it. It could be very good, it could be very bad. Same thing with any physical thing. It's all a tool, and you decide what you do with it, right? Judaism doesn't believe that wine or marriage is bad, like other religions believe, right? We say, no, the Kohen Gadol, if he's not married, he can't do the services on Yom Kippur, because being married makes you a complete person, which we could talk about a different time. Wine, you don't make kiddush or a wedding or a brit milah or pidyon haben or any other significant mitzvah without a cup of wine, right? So all these things are just tools, and you could use them to elevate the whole reality. And that's what Judaism teaches us, is that when we act, when we behave the way the Torah tells us, the Torah expects us to, we're not just doing these things, but we're actually bringing more spirituality to the world, more light, more abundance, and we're elevating the whole world. So therefore, someone that was here and he gave up his life, he lost his life protecting his people, fighting for God's name, fighting for God's land, his soul is sent straight to the highest chamber possible. And there was a very famous saying from this student in Beit Vagan, that he went to the great Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and he told him he wanted to go to Poland to daven at the grave of a tzaddik. And Reb Shlomo Zalman told him, if you want to daven by the grave of a tzaddik, you should go to Har Herzl in Yerushalayim. You have a lot of tzaddikim over there. Every single soldier that lost his life protecting, fighting for the Jewish people, fighting for Hashem, he's in the highest place possible. Go to his grave to daven. So I would say the same thing to all the soldiers that lost their lives now, and all the people that were killed on Simchat Torah as well. It doesn't matter who they were. It doesn't matter what their spiritual level and connection was before they were killed. The fact that they lost their life for the sake of being a Jew in Eretz Yisrael, they are now in the highest place possible. So yes, we sanctify life, but if you have a shortcut to get to your destination, that's the best thing possible. So not that anyone wants to die, but anyone who, when his time comes to leave this world, right, the best way to leave is giving up your life for Hashem, for Hashem's people.
Rabbi, there are many people outside of Israel and the Muslim world who are uncertain about whom to join in the war, whom to support. Many of them are Christians, because Christians aren't directly involved in the war because they're neither Muslim or Jewish, right? What would you tell Christians in order to state your case and to push them to support Israel over Hamas, over the terrorists?
On one hand, we can't ignore the fact that many civilians in Gaza are being killed, which is something that is not very, very unpleasant to see, and no one wants this to happen. But on the other hand, there's no one to blame but Hamas. If they're using the civilians as human shields, what do they want us to do? I would just tell them, come and stand inside our shoes. What would you recommend us to do? What would you do if the same thing would happen to you and wherever it is that you live? Would you act any different? Would you be so much more aggressive, like we've seen, right? Other nations, if it's America that attacked different places and other things that happened, right? If it was even with Germany, when they finished the Nazis, right? So many civilians were killed, but there's no one to blame but the Nazis, but the Hamas, which are the same thing. Or it's all the same story. It's the evil using innocent people as human shields, and the only way to get rid of this cancer is to get rid of this cancer. And there's a prize for it, but there's only one person that can be blamed for that, and it's not Israel.
Rabbi Raphael, thank you very much for this interview and for your insight on the religious aspect of this war. Thank you also to all of our viewers that saw this interview. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on our WhatsApp and on the rest of our social media platforms. Thank you, and have a great day.